Okay, did you hear that? Wonderful. So, Juliet Diaz, you are so welcome to Livsenergi. I am so happy to meet you. Welcome.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, it's fun. So, actually, the reason we are here today is that because one of your books, you've written several, but one of your books, Witchery, is about to be launched here in Sweden. And we are super excited about that since this is a trending topic and there are not many witch books published here. So it's very interesting for us to talk to you. We do have some local witches in Sweden that we know quite well, and we have a good relationship with them. But you have a different story. Your background is quite unique and special, and we really like to hear more about you. So what can you tell us? I mean, I know that you are born and raised with healers and witches in Cuba, but
Yes.
what more can you tell us? Details.
Well, I'm a first generation in the United States. My mom came over from Cuba and she was actually pregnant with me, trying to come here for a better life because, as you know, Cuba is not a place that really has many opportunities for people. But my whole lineage is from my ancestors. I am indigenous Taino of Cuba, and we are, healers and brujas, witches, medicine men, and it's been for me really interesting growing up in the United States where witchcraft or witchery is more commercial,
Yeah.
um, and it's something that's a lifestyle for us. So growing up, there was a lot of misconception of what a witch is, and I had to struggle a lot with kind of defending our way, and showing people that we're not what they see on TV. Because if you've seen, on TV, they show us or depict us as the bad ones, or we're evil, or we worship everything that's not good, and we're up to no good, and we eat children and all of that stuff, right? So for me, listening to Americans say this as I was growing up, it was really weird. I thought they were the crazy ones.
Yeah, I can tell.
But now that I'm older, and everyone is kind of, getting into and understanding what witchcraft is and who the witches are and what we represent, it's been a lot easier. And I've been blessed with being able to be one of the leaders in this community.
Yeah. So, I mean, you also said that witchery and healing is quite commercial in the US. So, how come it was still difficult, you think?
It's because of what the perception is. Growing up, it wasn't commercialized. It's more now. Now,
Yeah.
it's trending and it's trendy, especially around Halloween. Everybody wants to be a witch or calls themselves a witch, and that's just fine. But there's a lot of them that still kind of identify with what they see on TV, which isn't really what a witch is.
Mm,
We aren't those ugly characters, those horrible personalities that they try to make us as bad people, as people who mean to do harm, um,
mm,
when in fact witches are quite opposite of that. um, Not all of them, there are, just like regular people, there's good and bad in everything,
mm,
but the majority of who I know and the community of witches, they're beautiful people, they're community people,
mm.
um, and they're protectors of the land, waters, and the earth.
And that is interesting, I think, because I want to demystify the concept of the witch. Since we do have some, how do you say, we already have ideas of what a witch is, and because of history and everything. So, to you, what is witchcraft, and what do you mean when you say that we should embrace our inner witch?
Well, we all are born with an innate right, an innate gift to be connected to the earth. um, I believe we are all intuitive beings. We're all divine beings. So embracing the witch within is embracing that innate birthright of who you are as a sacred being on this earth. Um, Now, all witches, there's different kinds of practices, there's different kinds of beliefs, there's different kinds of aesthetics and rituals that they follow. So not all of us are the same, but primarily I do believe that the witch in general is someone who embodies who they are, like their authentic truth, like who they really are beneath all the layers. Um, and it's just really beautiful to see that a lot of that information, kind of like when I put out my book Witchery, Embrace the Witch Within, why it's doing so well is because I give that message of, you don't have to follow a particular um, path, you don't have to follow particular rules, you just have to follow what you feel from inside. Your intuition, your spirit leads you and shows you the wisdom that you need in order for you to practice the path of being on this earth.
Yeah, and when reading your book, you have a very beautiful language. I have to tell you, it's really nice to read your book because it fills you with a very nice feeling of love
Yeah.
and authenticity. But still, I mean, when you say embrace your witch within, I'm wondering if what is the difference to embrace your true self, or um like most self-help books, the yeah.
I actually wrote a third book coming out now. It's coming out in January and it's on pre-sale now. And that book tackles the wellness industry and the spiritual community.
Yeah.
Um, I see it as toxic and harmful, especially to Black, Indigenous people of color. Because of all of this, you have to be in high spirits all the time, positivity all the time. Whereas when I write and my perspective of acknowledging and embracing the witch within you, which is the divine spirit, is acknowledging all of yourselves, which is your good emotions and bad emotions, right? Because
Hmm.
nowadays you can't have a negative feeling. You can't, you have to bypass it. You have to swipe left on it. If not, you're not going to manifest the life that you want. That's the messages that they're putting out there now,
Hmm.
these spiritual communities. And it's quite frankly not healthy for us. And we won't spiritually grow if that's the way we continue to practice, because we just continue to hide our true feelings within ourselves. And that's not authentic at all. And the whole point of being a witch or embracing that witch within you is having that authenticity of who you are, your unique self, which makes you different, which makes you sacred, being
Hmm.
different, right? And unique. So this is a very important message to, embrace fully who you are, no matter who you are, no matter what other people say. You are perfect as you are and you don't have to change. So this is the big message that witches like to give out, because it's important for you to be who you are and not try to be someone else because society tells you to be someone else.
Is this the message of most witch cultures, if you could say so?
A lot of witches are who they are. They're not
Mm.
afraid to express what they love, what they do, who they are in reality.
Mm.
They go against the, I guess, how do you say, the current.
Yeah.
They're not followers of, these programs, and they're not followers of whatever capitalist society tells you you're supposed to be.
Mm.
Witches are very authentic. They practice witchcraft because it allows them to be who they are. This is why there's a huge rise in the LGBTQ community, in the witchcraft community now, right? Because there more and more people are finding that being a witch means you being authentic to yourself, connecting to the earth, connecting to your divine spirit,
Mm.
and just living in truth.
Yeah, that's right. It sounds quite difficult to embrace yourself so fully.
Yes.
And I know that it wasn't really easy for you either, even though you're born into this world of witches and healers. Tell us a little bit about your background.
Yeah, it's not easy at all being authentic to you heart. It's not even easy to love yourself, and growing up in a world where you're constantly told that you're not perfect, that there's something wrong with you. You have to reach these certain levels of um, acknowledgments that either your parents want you to be, or your teachers expect of you, or society expects of you. So it's really hard in general for a human on earth to um, to live a life where they fully love who they are or accept who they are. And for me growing up, it was hard because I did come from a very abusive childhood.
Mm.
Um, Being immigrants to this country is not easy by far. I mean, by now everybody should know around the world that it's not easy being, an immigrant in America.
No.
Um, so even 40 years ago when my mom came here, it was still not easy. And coming into the school systems where there were primarily white children and white teachers, my mom had to change me and put me into a school in our own neighborhood, which was a lot more dangerous, but I had to because it was safer than being in a school where, there was a lot of racism going on. So I had to deal with racism growing up. I had to deal with crime in the area that I grew up, my home not being too safe for me.
Mm.
Um, I was even homeless for a while, straight out of high school. So I didn't have an easy upbringing. And because I didn't have an easy upbringing, with all the hardships that I went through, I truly believe that's what connected me more to my truth, to who I am, and to practicing witchcraft, which kept me connected to the universe, the earth, and to who I am.
Yeah. Was it always your path, or did you have the ability to choose, or did you have to choose, or and
Yeah,
why? If so, why did you choose this path?
yeah, everybody has to make that decision at one point or the other, especially if you're coming from a family that are practicing witches.
Yeah.
Um, Growing up, when you grow up in a household like that, that's just your life. You don't know anything different. I didn't know it was not normal until I started going to school and people started telling me that my life wasn't normal. Or my friends would come over and they're like, okay, this is weird. But it was no, but once I started getting older, and I started facing, some of the children at school telling me, I was a witch and that I worshiped the devil and all that stuff because they believed what they saw on TV.
Mm.
Um, I started to kind of stray away from it and not want to be part of it. Um,
Mm.
like any normal teenager, they have to go through these, what am I going to do in my future? Who am I? You start questioning. It's kind of like self-discovery, right?
Yeah.
Discovering who you are. So I did come to a point where I had to decide whether I accepted who I was fully or I was going to stray away from it. I did try to stray away from it from time to time, and every time that I did try to, hide it or stay away from it, I became more depressed.
Oh.
Um, I felt more lost.
Mm.
So I just came right back and found myself right where I was supposed to be, which was my authentic self, is being a witch.
Yeah. So, I mean, I get curious when you say that you have lived in a family with practicing witches and healers. What could a day look like, or a week? I mean, what would be different in what? Why did the children around you say that you had a different life?
Well, everything. I mean, from the moment we woke up, we, greeted the sun and we opened up all the shades and we would use, charge all of our brews and potions, which were more medicinal. Even the way we cleaned with, herbs, roots, and spices that were meant to cleanse the home. Um,
Mm.
so we had a lot of smoke going on, a lot of incense. We had lots of candles at home. We worship the moon cycles, every single cycle. Um, from my mom is a kitchen witch, so all her magic was in the kitchen. So anything from herbal remedies to just meals that she would infuse with different ingredients that were meant to, either protect us or help us grow or help us with an exam at school. So it was magic all the time, and it was really normal for us. There wasn't anything out of the ordinary for me in my eyes, but other children didn't think it was normal that we had so many plants, that we made our own medications instead of going to the pharmacy, that we were constantly cleansing the home before we even got into our, like, when I would go to school and come back, my mom didn't allow us to come into the house until she cleansed us. So she would grab her smudge and cleanse us out the door before we stepped inside. So she would do that to my friends as well. So they thought that was weird.
That is so cute.
When there were rainstorms, instead of being inside, we were outside dancing in the storms, collecting water. So we were 5 children. So you would always see us outside in puddles, jumping in the storms, lightning and everything. So they knew, they were like, these people are crazy.
Oh.
But to us, storms are really cleansing, regenerative. We collect the water as well to work with. So it was really beautiful. It was really beautiful in that aspect of having that part of my life, because like I said, because of the area I lived in, because of the hardships, just my mom coming in, being an immigrant to this country, we did have a lot of hardships. But the magic that lived with us was what saved my life over and over.
Yeah. So did your father come with you?
Yes, he did, but he was, like I said, my childhood wasn't very good. My dad was actually murdered when I was 5 years old.
Oh my God.
Yeah, well, being immigrants to this country, and in the 80s, a lot of the immigrants from that time, the way they survived in this country was getting involved in like drug trafficking and things like that. And that's something that I don't hide, because it's truth. It's a hardship. It's what people do to try and survive and try to keep their family alive and put food on our table. So that's what he did when he got here. And as a result, he was murdered from that. So my mom was a single mom for a while, until we had our stepdad come into the picture.
Yeah. Tough for her with 5 kids. Whew.
Yeah, can you imagine?
Yeah, I can. I have 3 and I am not a single parent. I think it's enough.
I'm married and I have 2 boys, and every day when I look at her, I'm just like in awe of her strength, and her ability to have, I talk about how, it wasn't a very loving home, and I didn't understand that growing up, but I understand that now as a mother. I'm 40 now. It's like we were talking about why, self-care and self-love and all that self-help stuff, they didn't have that back then, so our parents had to pull through on their own, and sometimes, the hardships that they were going through, they weren't able to show us like real comforting, compassionate love. And that's something that I missed growing up, and something that I had to deal with as I was older to heal through. But I have so much compassion for what she went through, and how she was able to pull through life.
Yeah. What a story. You know what? I have to tell you something very interesting. I mean, it's kind of magic, really.
Yes.
Today, on public service radio here in Sweden, a trend spotter talked about the increasing interest for witchery
Yes.
and tarot. I mean, that doesn't happen in Sweden.
It's gonna happen all over the world.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? Today, this morning, just before noon. And I've been trying to find it over again because I wanted to record it, but it's not digital yet. So they talked about witchery and tarot, and witchery especially. So what is your reaction to that when I say that?
It's what I've been seeing for the last few years, an uprise in people wanting to practice and get more into witchery, especially tarot, right? Because it's a divination tool.
Mm.
And there's so many amazing creators out there, witches who are creating beautiful tarot cards. And also, not all tarot readers are witches. So I want to make that clear because
Mm.
that's another misconception.
Of course.
But there's an uprising in people wanting to find answers within themselves, and that's what witchery is. Witchery is witchcraft. Being a witch is going inward and finding the answers from within you, from the earth and from spirit, right? Whether it's good or bad, you're getting that information from yourself, and you're allowing yourself to be who you are and to lead yourself on your own path.
Mm.
Whereas if you don't practice witchery, people do feel lost, or they feel like they have to practice a certain religion. And you can practice witchcraft and be in a religion, by the way.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't know that, and you can. Witchcraft has nothing to do with religion. It's not a religion. Um, and you can practice witchcraft with whatever religion you're a part of. But
Mm.
people are starting to come away from a religion because of all of the old school demands and views and perspectives. And you don't want to be part of something that's telling you that you're not good enough, right?
No.
Um, Something that's telling you that you're a mistake, that a certain part of you is a sin. So
Mm.
people don't want to hear that, and for right reason, because we're not a sin. We're not created wrong. We're perfect. We were created just as we were supposed to be. We're all sacred beings. So people are coming into the world of witchcraft and witchery because they want that acknowledgement of feeling authentic, of
Mm.
feeling good in their own skin, and doing something that they feel connected to.
Yeah. I think it's more accepted now also to take a step away from religion due to what you believe in instead.
Yeah, it's a
So
very
yeah.
it's very important for us to question everything, right?
Yeah.
Uh, if you want to stick to your religion, that's fine, but question everything. Look at everything that you're reading, look at everything that you're following. And this is for witches too, right? Because there's certain paths that are out there that are created by people.
Mm.
Um, what tools are you using? Where are they coming from? Are you cultural appropriating? Are you authentic to your own roots and your ancestors? There's so much in life that we just consume and we follow blindly without really doing our research. Um,
Mm.
and that takes out the intention and the ritual of being a witch, because the whole point of practicing is for you to be in this space of authentic ritual, authentic connection, and knowing what it is that you're doing, knowing the herbs and the tools that you're working with. That makes everything a lot more intentional and a
Mm.
lot more powerful. It will work a lot better if that's the way that people actually approach anything that they're practicing or believing in.
Mm. You are writing in the book about integrity as a witch, that you also um, that you are um, how do you say, that you are protective and help cultures keep their own ways of doing things and their own terminology, etc., and to keep the terminology of the witchery clear or clean, how to say.
Well,
Uh,
I'm
yeah.
indigenous, so as
Yeah.
an, as an indigenous person, I'm an activist. So I'm an activist for protecting the earth and our waters, but I'm also an activist in protecting cultural, like Native Americans, indigenous peoples, cultures and practices, because they are appropriated like crazy. People are stealing from these cultures. They're appropriating practices and sacred ceremonies and things like that. So the witch community for a very long time had been taking from all these different cultures and practices, right?
Yeah.
Um, and because we didn't have the internet and we didn't have like Instagram and the social media, people were getting away with it. And, a lot of the indigenous peoples, Native Americans were, not too happy about it. And some of them, just let it go because it's just something that's been going on for a lot of years.
Yeah.
But because we have online and we have social media, we're seeing these practices, how they have taken from these closed practices and cultures, and we've been calling them out. We've been teaching, which is, this is not from your culture. We have a duty to respect that, and not take. Instead, we redirect people to look into their own cultures and their own roots, or neutral tools and practices, right? Where we can all just practice and not appropriate from a certain culture.
Yeah. I think that's very nice, and it's yeah, it's loving in a way, even though that it can sound a bit hard, but
Yeah,
I think
and I
it's
talk about
really
that too. I talk
Mhm.
about trying not to be so harsh to each other, because we're all learning and unlearning, right?
Yeah,
And we can't get mad at someone doing a certain thing that is cultural appropriation if they didn't really know. I mean, now it's known that it's easy for you to do your research. Everyone should be doing research, and looking into it, and more people are aware of it. The witch community has become so huge on, you know, being mindful
mm,
and kind of keeping an eye out for that.
mm.
But it's so easy to practice witchcraft without appropriating, because literally the earth belongs to all of us. So all of these beautiful natural practices are available to us all without appropriating.
Mm. What about when you talk about, or in the book, we find potions and rituals and practices of magic. Um, Many times I can feel a similarity to the shamanic field. What do you say when I say that?
Well, I'm indigenous, so shamanic field comes from indigenous practices. So that's why
Yeah.
there's a lot of appropriation.
Mm,
But then again, a lot of the indigenous practices around the world are similar because they're earth-based practices, right?
mm,
So in my books, I never put any spells or rituals that is part specific to my culture. I use ones that are able to be used by everyone because they are earth-based. They're with herbs, roots, and flowers. They're with, the moon, the mountains, the rivers, the oceans, all of that. So when I put works in, any spells or potions in my books are things that people can use without, worrying that they're appropriating anything.
yeah. So if you were to, if you would just tell us about a ritual or a potion that was very close to your culture, what would that look like?
Yeah, I wouldn't.
Okay.
I
It
absolutely
would
would.
it be different ingredients or different ways of doing
Yeah,
it? Or
it would particularly, I'm actually a Bahuiti of my tribe, which means I am actually a medicine keeper and protector.
yeah.
So for me to even speak on it is going against my role of what I'm supposed to be it for my peoples. So yeah, we protect the ingredients because they're native to our lands where we're from. I'm
Mm,
Taino, so we're the Caribbean. Um, so the ingredients, the way, the ceremonial part of from beginning to end of how we do it, there's things that we say, who we call, um who is with us while this is happening, our ceremonies and rituals. So
mm,
things like that we keep secret because
yeah.
we've seen what's happened to the Native Americans. Everybody's seen that, and their work, their sacred practices and ceremonies have been appropriated for many years.
Mm,
So we are very protective
mm,
of our things. But it's what we do for our own people, that is, it only works for us, right? Because it's
yeah.
ancestral to who we are.
Mm,
So when we open up ceremony to the public and to everyone else, we're very mindful of, again, working with things that are neutral, like everything that is the earth and everything that is the sky and the universe, working with plants like earth magic. So that's the second book that I had written, Plant Witchery, which
yeah. It's
goes really,
beautiful.
thank you. It goes really good with witchery because it's a kind of a continuation of the practice that you can all be involved in, that connects you to who you are and the earth itself.
Yeah. I totally respect your mission here to protect your culture. So let's not talk about that anymore. So, but I would like to ask you though. I mean, I'm not really. I haven't yet come to the point where I can embrace my inner witch, but I'm very interested and curious about it. And the only thing that I do know about witchery is that you have a seasonal, a year with a lot of celebrations, and I think they're very interesting. And I also hear about Wiccan and pagan. So knowing that, I mean that's common knowledge to many people, even though you might not be interested in witchery at all. But what would you say? How do you relate to these lines of witchery, if you like?
Well, I'm not Wiccan. My book is not Wicca. Most all of witchcraft is not Wicca. Wicca is fairly new. It's made by, man-made. That is a religion. And not everyone practices Wicca, and not all witches practice witch. Actually, I don't even know a witch personally that practices Wicca. That's just to whoever wants to follow that path, but
Mm,
that is not witchcraft. That is just another option for you
mm,
to follow a certain path or something. I personally don't follow it, and don't have an interest in it, but there are many people online, especially new witches, who follow it because it's called Wicca
mm.
and has, a following already. But again, you don't have to be a witch to follow Wicca, or vice
Mm.
versa.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay.
and if you're interested in becoming a witch, you don't have to follow a certain path. You can start with connecting to the earth, which is super, super important for
Mm,
in any of the practices that you want to follow.
mm,
Um, you don't have to, like you said, that you're just starting to. It's okay. Just starting to be curious about it does not make you a witch,
mhm,
that curiosity is a calling, and that calling is a journey. It's a long journey for you to start realizing what it is that you like. Maybe you're the kind of witch that likes crystals. Maybe you're the kind of witch that likes more divination tools. Maybe you like it all. So you
yeah.
start kind of building this lifestyle for yourself, and that takes a little bit of time. So you don't have to wait until it's completely built for you to call yourself a witch. That's
Thank you.
yeah, that's what a lot of people don't understand. Or a lot of people think that they have to be part of a coven, or they have to come from a line of witches. Like I
Mm,
said in my book, Witchery, that's bullshit.
mhm,
you know, that's people who try to, I forget the word. Oh crap. There's a word for it. Um, where they kind of try to keep people out of becoming witches, and telling you that you're not a real witch.
yeah.
Um, that's not okay. That's not okay by far, because being a witch in our eyes, and
Mm,
specifically for my eyes as well, is an innate right of being a human on this earth, period.
mm,
And it's just, you start living a life where you're just connected to everything, and everything becomes this beautiful interwoven wisdom that comes from all angles, from the animals, from the trees, to the lands, to yourself, right?
yeah.
um, you just start living this life where you are connected to everything, and you start trusting more in the path that you are on, and your purpose on this earth.
Mm,
um, and you can do that with practicing any form of witchcraft. There's practices for you that you can follow, but again, I am more of that person who tells you, um, follow your own way,
mm,
make up your own path.
mm,
Try, if you dabbled in green witchery, if you water witchery, and if you like certain parts of it and you want to mix them together for your own, that's how you build your own practice. That's how you build something that's authentic to who you are.
mm,
I can't follow one way. If I follow a path, it's not going to be authentic to me, because I have so many different aspects of who I am,
Mm.
experiences in my life, that different things work in different situations for me.
So whatever feels makes sense to you or to me,
Yeah, whatever
this is my
feels,
path. Mm.
whatever you feel, when you get an interest in something,
Mm.
you're going to, this is going to happen a lot, by the way, on your journey. You're going to be like, oh, that sounds interesting, I'm going to start learning about this and practicing. But then you might come to a point where you're like, it's not for me. And
Mm.
then you start learning about something else. That's the journey of a witch.
Yeah.
But maybe it sticks with you and you're like, oh, you know what, I'm going to keep certain aspects of this sounds really good. But that does not mean that you're going to end your journey there and learning more about the craft, because there's so many different shades of it.
Mm.
But that's the beautiful part about living this magical life, right? That you're constantly learning these magical ways, and it's just so beautiful to have, especially in a world that's falling apart right now. You have to be connected to something that reminds you of your spirit, not just your flesh.
Mm.
And it's really important for mental health, especially.
Mm.
So take your
It sounds
time.
like a beautiful path of inner healing or inner development.
That's exactly what it is. You, as you find yourself, as you discover things in the, and not just in witchcraft, just in general in life, right?
Mm.
We don't know who we are. I can't say, I'm 40 years old and I'm still discovering more of who I am, because I had to heal a lot of the crap that I went through.
Mm.
And a lot of us think that we are who we are as we are, and that's not true. If you come, especially from a past of trauma, of, you know, of no love, of hardships, those things kind of build these layers of armor, and hide the fragile self within you, because of, it's trying to protect you.
Mm.
So you start to believe that who you are right now is who you are authentically.
Mm.
And that took me a long time to figure out that I wasn't this closed off person. I wasn't this person who didn't trust people.
Mm.
That came from my trauma. So as I healed, a lot of my authentic self started coming out. I started to learn who Juliet really was. And
Mm.
it's a journey with having magic and witchcraft in your life. As you discover who you are in life, it's just the perfect combination. It's
Mm.
there to support you.
Yes, I truly believe that too. And you say something that I really agree with, and that is that the magic is within us all.
It is within us all. And I got a lot of shit from people because
Yeah.
oh my God, when that book came out, because if you look at Witchery and the timestamp that it came out,
Yeah.
again, I think it's doing so well, and it did so well. It's a bestseller because I go against what everybody else is doing, and I just call it as it is. I'm like, I'm that friend that who's like, I'm like really honest with you. I'm like, stop the bullshit. This is, stop the crap. This is not a closed practice. This is not for special chosen ones.
Mm.
I actually think you thinking that this is for special chosen people, that's very narcissistic, first of
Mm.
all.
Mm.
Um, you don't put yourself above anyone else, because what you're doing then is you're going into the religious um kind of structure, right? When you're
Yeah.
when you have like these placements above other people, levels, like the
Mm.
government, for example. So we dismantle that shit. We're all about, we're equal no matter who we are, where we come from.
Mm.
We're sacred and equal, and all deserve to say who it is that we are. I can't tell you, if you tell me you're a witch, I'm not going to be here and be like, no, you're not. That's just doesn't make any sense. You are who you feel you are. And if
Yeah.
you feel you are a witch, and if you feel you're curious about becoming a witch, then acknowledge that with all your heart, and don't listen to what anybody else says. In fact, just stick to the people who are going to encourage you to follow that path for yourself.
Mm. So true. You're a beautiful soul, Juliet.
Thank you.
Let's talk a little bit about the book.
Yes.
So, about Witchery. What, well, that is the book that we are about to launch here in Sweden in a few weeks
I'm
just.
so excited. Oh my gosh.
I am too. I am too. So, what do you want to tell the viewers about this book? What is it about essentially?
Okay, so Witchery, Embrace the Witch Within is really great for people who are curious about becoming witches, or people who have been curious about it or practicing even and just haven't found a way or their path yet.
Mm.
They're too overwhelmed with all the information that's out there.
Mm.
So the book is very inspirational and empowering the self to trust in yourself. Trust that you have the power and the magic to be capable of creating a practice for yourself. I even teach people how to create their own spells, because I don't, for me, there's this saying, you can teach someone or give someone all these spells, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of people will tell you, well, these spells aren't working. And the reason why spells don't work for a lot of people is because those spells weren't created by you,
Mm.
or you're not connected to those spells. Anything that you create, that you put your mind, that you put your heart to, that you put your hands on, that is going to work because you're giving it your power, your magic, your personal juju, right? So
Yeah.
that's where the magic comes from within you. So you can learn from outside sources, but don't take that as the only way of going on this journey. Learn from outside sources, but take and create your own thing. And that's what Witchery teaches you. It teaches you the foundations, the importance of connecting to certain things like the earth for grounding, for instance, where to pull energy from, um, create how to create your own spells and why it's important, and the intention that goes behind it. It's a really great beginner's book. And I do feel like everyone should have it with them. I have so many parents who are older witches now, elders especially, who buy the books for their young ones. And
Mhm.
it just warms my heart that they choose this book, because it is so open, and
Mm.
it is so, it empowers you to trust your own self in going on this journey.
And I bet that even though they are saying they're buying it for their children and so on, they're probably using it themselves, because I think it's a book for everyone because it's full with so much inspiration and the language is just beautiful.
Thank you so much. Yeah,
Mm.
I am very honored when I have elders come to me and tell me that they love the book.
Mm.
Um, it's really beautiful, because when you put out works out there or your books out there that are authentic, and for instance, Witchery, I didn't put it out there because I wanted to make money. I wanted to put it out there because it was a reply to all the questions I was getting for years.
Yeah.
People asking me, can I be a witch? Do you think I'm a witch? What can I practice? How can I find out if this is the path for me? Is this the job for me? Is this the boyfriend for me? It gets, instead of me turning it into business where I charge them to answer their questions, I really saw this as a problem.
Yeah.
I'm a seer, I'm a born seer. So for me, I see ahead of time.
Yeah.
Um, and when I was getting these questions over and over and over, it was very concerning to me, because that all that told me was people weren't trusting themselves,
Yeah.
and they were disconnected from their spirit. And that is very concerning till this day. This is why I wrote my third book that's coming out. You have to go back to yourself. You are literally armed with everything you need to know for you to survive on this earth and on your journey. All the wisdom from your ancestors, from your spirit guides, literally lives within you.
Mm.
So the more that we seek outside ourselves, the more disconnected we become from that source. So I needed to write a book where it told people that it's okay for you to figure things out on your own.
Mm.
Researching, learning from others is okay, but ultimately you should be the one making the final decisions, and building that trust with your intuition.
So true. So, looking into the book, we find a lot of practices,
Yeah.
rituals, potions, seasons for celebration, etc. What can a normal day look like for you? What kind of witchcraft is part of your daily life?
I own, well, not own, I hate saying own. I have nearly 400 plants in my home alone.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So, for me, because of my background, because of all the healing I have to do, I've built a practice where it's a lifestyle that nourishes my mind, body, and soul. And that looks like me waking up again, like I used to when I was a child, with my mom, greeting the sun, tending to the plants and speaking to
Yeah.
them, greeting all of the plants, greeting my cats, greeting my children. Um, I immediately focus on my body, see how it feels. So I'm very in tune with my human form, my flesh, my body, my temple.
Yeah.
um, and I I check in to see how it is that I'm doing, because okay, so before I go into my daily practice, the reason why I have it is because we have such busy lives.
Mm.
And because we have such busy lives, and because of all the news and everything that's happening around the world, we forget to check in on ourselves.
Mm.
And because of all the noise, we might not hear if something's off within ourselves, our
Mm.
health, our mental state, our heart, even aches and pains. We ignore all of that stuff, or we just kind of, we notice it and we pop a pill and then we keep going. That's not how we should be treating ourselves, because we're sacred beings, right?
Mm.
So I've developed a practice where I am allowing myself to have these moments throughout the day, which I call pockets of magic, where I check in with myself. I see how my body's feeling. I feel how my mental state is doing. Am I being a bitch to myself today and being negative and calling myself things? Or am I being positive today? So I'm very aware of what's happening within my own body. I become the observer. So I wake up, I make tea for my children before school, their breakfast. We usually have music on. We love magical movies, so we play a
Yeah.
lot of magical soundtracks.
What,
um,
what magical movies do you
so
recommend?
we have Practical Magic, Hocus Pocus, like all the fun movies that you watch growing up.
Yeah.
Um, we like The Good Witch. We like actually, this is not a witch movie, but we love like Beetlejuice, things like that. Anything that
Yeah.
really brings a kind of a fun magical atmosphere, I play it in the morning to,
Yeah.
get my kids are teens now, so they don't hate it. They're used to it and they love it.
Oh.
Sometimes they act like, oh, come on, mom, we're too old for that. I'm like, no, you're not. You're never too
Oh.
old for magic. So I
No.
try to create an atmosphere in my home that is loving and magical, because I know they're going to go on to their day in school, which is very mundane, and stressful. So after they go to school, I'm constantly gardening, tending to my herbs. I create a lot of home remedies, just like my mother did.
Yeah.
Um, I love cooking, so I'm in the kitchen all the time. It's just the way I like to live. Growing my own vegetables and fruits on my land. Um, I have a ton of animals outside of my house. We don't have farm animals yet, but we have a lot of frogs, a lot of birds. Um, so it's just, I live a very in tune life, or I try to really hard, having a lifestyle, having a practice that you follow every day. I call it like rituals, daily rituals that you follow
Yeah.
are going to help you come back to yourself when disaster hits, right? For instance, like 2020 hit us,
Yeah.
all of us. And I was very open about how I lost my shit. I completely lost my mind that year. In the beginning, when it all started, fear hit. I have children, I'm a mother, and I have autoimmune disease.
Mm.
So for me, having such a huge thing come into our world, that disrupts, it wasn't just me, it was everyone else, right? We were all hit with it. We all had to deal with it in our own ways. But because I had a ritual practice that I follow every day, it helped me kind of go back into my life,
Mm.
and find magic again, and find that peace within me again, and start to, work with my mental health and work with my heart. And you just have to create a daily life that's going to help support real life, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does make sense. What would you say is the most important thing to think about when practicing magic?
It's a journey of finding yourself, right?
Mm.
When you're working with magic, what magic does, it touches parts of you that you don't even know exist.
Mm.
That part of you when you were a kid and you used to use your imagination, or you used to, you know, your eyes would open wide when you saw like these magical parts in a movie, or you saw something happen that wasn't, you know, scientifically debunked and you believed it was magical. So tapping back into magic and following the craft really does create this enchant enchanting atmosphere around you, where, you know, you're not only here on earth, but you're connected to the spirit realms, which is really, really important. Your
Mm.
loved ones are there, right? Your
Yeah.
guides are there. So you don't feel alone. I often say that when you're a witch, you feel loved even when you're alone, because you're truly not alone. Me growing up and being alone most of my life, being a witch and practicing witchcraft is where I found love, is where I found peace, is where I felt I was held by the earth and by my spirit friends, because I didn't have that loving home. I didn't have, you know, loving parents, or parents who had the time to be loving, right?
Right.
They were struggling and making sure that we had food on the table and paying for, you know, our home and working. So when you have a practice that supports you fully, you just feel like you're supported by literally everything, the universe entirely.
Mm. Yeah, that makes sense. So just like a short, we love quick and easy stuff, and I know that's maybe not okay to ask from you, but do you have a formula that you would recommend as a works every time thing?
What do you mean? Like a
Like
spell?
a formula, spell, a potion, or yeah, it could be like a favorite thing for you that you know anyone who does this, it works kind of every time.
Yeah, candle magic is my
Candle magic.
number one. I'm really great at manifesting. And people manifest in different ways, but candle magic is generally where I tell everyone to go to and practice, because candles are super powerful.
Mhm.
I started to make my own candles, so I infuse them more with my own magic, with my own love and my own intention. But you can get a candle from anywhere. It could be from, we have dollar stores here where they're like a dollar candle.
Yeah,
it,
I know. I love
yeah,
them.
it really doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be a fancy candle. It really doesn't. It could be the little short taper ones.
Yeah.
I tell people, it's not about, I get it. There's a whole thing about aesthetics on social media, but you
Mm.
really don't need much. All you really need is your powerful intention. So you can grab any candle you like.
Mm.
Um, Colors are significant to certain things. So I'll just say white. White in general is good for anything. So a white candle, and for instance, we just had tornadoes last week. So to send prayers to everyone for everyone's safety, all you have to do is just hold the candles in your hand and literally pour your heart into it, your intention, whatever it is that you want the candle to do for you, or for the candle to send out to the world. If it's something for like protection, then you be specific and talk to the candle like if you were talking to a friend.
Yeah.
This is what I want my intention to be for this candle, and then you light it and let it burn all the way. I'm not the. I also tell people I'm okay with shutting off the candles. A lot of people like them to burn all the way, and some people believe that if you don't let them burn all the way, it's not gonna accomplish the intention set to it. But again, remember, magic is whatever it is that you believe. So
Yeah.
for me,
True.
my belief system, I try to keep everything very neutral, and it works wonderful for me because I don't bombard myself with rules. So for me, if I need to shut off a candle because I'm leaving the home, I say, I'm going to shut you off for right now, but I'll put you back on when I come back. And I say thank you to the candle. You treat everything as it is a being, as it has a soul, a spirit, because they do. Um, so it's very simple. Grab candles and you set your intention. If you're looking for a raise at work, green is really good. and you tell the candle just like that, hey, I need some more money. Be honest. You know, I am setting the intention to bring in money to, fill my bank account, money from all directions. So you have to learn how to communicate with your tools. You have to learn how to communicate what it is you want. And that's why I brought up before that this whole spiritual manifesting practices that are on the rise now, they're kind of putting a damper on witchcraft a little bit, because they're making it harder. Your intention has to be super clear. You can't have any negative thought. And people start becoming afraid to do the work themselves, because they're like, well, I had a bad day. Should I, work my candle or not? Absolutely, yes, you can. Just be honest with the candle, have a conversation, and be like, listen, this is what I need. This is what I would want. This is what I desire. And then light the candle and let it do its job. You just have to come from a place of belief and faith. And the more you do it, and the more you acknowledge when things happen and say, hey, my candle worked, the more it's going to work for you.
That's great. We're going into fall now, and in Sweden in the summer we have almost it's light 24 hours a day. So whenever summer comes, we kind of stop lighting candles. And I'm a candle fan. I love candles. I have candles everywhere. And the best gift to give me is a candle holder. And the funny thing is that now when fall is coming, everyone is a little bit sad that the light is gone, and the heat is gone. However, we can start lighting candles again because you can see them now.
Yeah,
It's so beautiful.
it's weird. In America, we love the fall. We're happy summer is gone, and we're going into we call it witchy season,
Yeah.
spooky season they call it. In America, we have a lot of cultures, right? We have people from around the world. So we have a lot of cultures that we believe, especially like September, October, is the thinning of the veil, when the spirits are closest to us here. So for us, it feels much more authentic to practice our magic and to light our candles during this time. Yeah, I already have Halloween decorations out since August.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's funny.
It's my happy. You have to find your happy place and your joy. Whatever lights you up, do it. I don't care if it's April and Halloween's in October. If you want to, play spooky Halloween music, go ahead and do it. It's whatever brings you joy. We have to start thinking about these boxes that we're fit into, or these rules, and really start breaking out of them, and just saying, this makes me feel good. I'm doing this today. I need rest today, so that's what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
You just have to pay attention to what it is that you love, what brings you joy, and what makes you happy. And if lighting those candles brings you joy, then light them all the time. I light candles every single day of the year.
Yeah. So thank you so much. I have a few super short questions that are just, little facts and details.
Yes.
Yes. So where actually do you live?
New Jersey in America.
And what is your star sign?
I'm a Pisces.
What is that?
What is
What
it?
is that? What is that? Which sign is that?
The one with the two fishes?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Ah, I didn't recognize the pronunciation. That's
Oh,
the thing.
Pisces.
Ah, yeah. Thank you. So what's your motto in life? Do you have one?
I wonder if I have one.
Or a rule to live by?
Just be yourself. That's something that I say to myself all the time. It's something that I constantly have to remind myself of.
Yeah.
Being in this position where I do write a lot of witchcraft books, and I have a lot of people come to me for different opportunities, it could get very overwhelming. You want to jump at all the opportunities, right? So I have to constantly take a seat and ask myself, is this authentic to me?
Mm.
Is this who I am? Because you can get lost in, in the world of where so much is possible. And you can get lost in that. So in order for me to stay authentic to myself, I constantly ask myself that question: is this authentic to myself?
Mm. That's a good one. Reminder every day.
Remind yourself of who
Mm.
you are, what's authentic to you.
Yeah. What is the best place on earth to you?
The water, anywhere there's water. I am from the Caribbean, indigenous to the Caribbean, and I have a very special connection to water in particular, which is the waterfalls, the oceans, the rivers. I'm a Pisces too, so
That's true.
and my my family in Cuba, they practice, they're indigenous, but they also practice Santeria, which is a mix of African, because I have African roots. Um, so Yemaya, she is of the ocean, and she's someone who I work with and have been working with, and anything water, really, because of the calming effect that they could have, and then the flow and the changes. It just makes sense to be connected to water in that sense.
Yeah, I can really relate to that. I love water.
It's the best.
So, what do you love to do? I know that you love to be in the kitchen. Is there anything else that you haven't told us that you love to do?
Besides my plants and reading, I guess, but that's boring. I've been a reader since I was very little. I actually kickbox. I'm a 6 degree
Oh,
black belt. Yes, that's something many people don't know. So I
cool.
like being very active. That's how I get my anger out instead of wanting to punch someone out. Or instead of sending that rude comment back to the trolls on social media.
Yeah, right.
I get it out by I like being active, like
Yeah.
kickboxing, martial arts. Yeah.
I also read that you're quite known for your communication, your communicative, how do you say that your ability to talk to plants.
Yes, that's something a lot of people have known for a long since I was very little. Um, I used to have a shop, and I had a medical center for
Yeah.
plants.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was free of charge. So people brought in their plants that they thought were dead or dying. And I would onboard them and take care of them, speak to them and see what was going on. And they would go back home once they were healed. So it was kind of like a doctor's office for plants. Um, Plants are very special to me because of where I lived when I was younger. It was like housing project. There was a lot of gangs and crimes. I would escape to the cemeteries. We had a lot of cemeteries around the building I lived in,
Yeah.
um, filled with plants and trees and nature.
Yeah.
So no one went in there. I would go in there because there was no people there, just graves. And
Yeah.
it was the most peaceful place for me. And I had, instead of like imaginary people friends, I had imaginary plant friends. So the plants would talk to me, the trees would talk to me. Um, and then as it grew older, I realized they weren't imaginary at all. I was just connecting to them from a very deep place because I was a very sad child. It was very,
Um,
I was always going through something, and they really found a way to connect with me and embrace me, and help me, and they taught me a lot. So that second book, Plant Witchery, um, actually has a lot of the wisdom of the plants that I learned along the way, of what they would teach me, that I could work, how I could work with them, which
hmm,
is something that you don't find in other books.
that's beautiful. That's really the roots of the witchery
Yeah, it is.
line. Yeah.
I teach you how to do that yourself as well, because I believe this is something that it's innate to all of us. Like I said in the beginning, having this ability to connect with the earth.
Mm.
Um, Native Americans, indigenous people have been saying this for all of time. You are of the earth. You are the earth, and you have already an interwoven connection to all things of the earth, the trees, the animals, nature. So if you just took some time to work with them, be around them more, have conversations with them, you'll start to develop this relationship and language between you and the plants.
Yeah, it's funny. In my family, it's my husband who has the green fingers, and he really takes time to be with the plants, and he takes care of them. And he has his own medical center for plants in our home,
Oh, I
and
love that.
he wouldn't say that himself, but he saves all the plants. No plants goes to waste,
Yep.
and it can really irritate me sometimes when we have, plants that don't seem to be alive in every window. But I understand what he's trying to do.
Yep, you have to, because the representation of a plant and a human, I talk about it in my plant witchery book. You The reason why a plant is sick is not because there's something wrong with the plant. There's something wrong with the environment. Either what it's being fed, lack of water, or where it's located. So you have to work with the plant and position it or move it around to where the environment works for the plant. And this applies to humans, right? We're not sick because we're imperfect. We get sick because of our environment, of the love we're not getting, of what we're feeding ourselves, and the location where we're at, who we're surrounded by. So it's the same thing as a plant. So when I work with plants in that way and I see that they're struggling or they're dying, I take responsibility. I'm like, this plant, if it was in nature, wouldn't have been going through this. This is my responsibility to figure out why this plant is not surviving, and find things that's going to nourish it and bring it back to life. And it's the same concept with us ourselves. The love that we show our plants really speaks of the love that we show ourselves.
Yeah.
And if we give up on our plant, that means we easily give up on ourselves. And it's a hard truth to realize, but it's really how it is, how we all are, right? We don't like to see broken things. We don't like to see sick things or dead things, or imperfect things. So it really speaks to how we might be treating ourselves. How much do we think of ourselves as being imperfect or not good enough or damaged?
You pushed a trigger here now.
Oh, sorry.
That's a really no, but it's fantastic to hear, because I think that you are very right. You are to the point here to a lot of people, I think.
It's hard truth, that we have to start to realize, because it's something that trickles down into our life, into our relationships, into ourselves.
Yeah.
And the signs are there. The signs are there. The lack of compassion that we have for ourselves is really concerning. And we have to start having that love and compassion for ourselves, as hard as it may be, and finding out why it's so hard for us to love ourselves and to have compassion for ourselves, because that leads us to where the pieces within us that don't belong to us are hidden, right? So that's the whole journey of healing, and witchcraft is finding those things within you, those ghosts hidden within you that don't belong to you, that you need to face and address and release them with love, right? Release them with understanding. Whereas today, spirituality is telling you, ignore your shadow self. They even give it a name. They call it the ego. They're separating us from our whole self, which is dangerous in my eyes. I don't see a future of wholeness if this is the way that we're going to continue. We need to step away from practices and beliefs that tell you that you have to be a certain way and you have to ignore a certain part of you. You should not ignore any part of you. We are intelligent beings. Our bodies, our brains, the way we are, our spirits, it knows what it needs to do. It knows how to heal. Our upbringing, our beliefs is what is keeping us from being whole, us thinking that, oh, this part of me is not something I want people to know. This part of me is not something I really want to talk about or face. So I'm just going to hide it away.
Yeah.
And when you do that, you're keeping yourself from being whole. So if there's something you don't like about yourself, you got to sit with it. You got to look at it and be like, why don't I like it? Where does it come from? Where did it come from? Where did it develop? How can I let it go? How can I change this? You have to face yourself. You have to be responsible for yourself, because that's who's responsible for you is yourself, nobody else.
That's very true. Juliet Diaz, I would like to thank you from the bottom of my heart for this meeting with you.
Oh, thank you so much, Alexandra. It's been really beautiful.
Yes, it was. And I know that you really looked into your schedule and put me in there a spot in your early morning.
Yes.
And I thank you so much because this is really special to us. Thank
I
you.
I really hope that one day I can go down to Sweden.
Yeah. That would be nice.
Yes, and meet you and be there. Hopefully, we get through everything that's happening in the world now all
Yeah.
together. Just remember, we need to get through this together.
Yes.
And we will get through it. We will get through it, and there's more magical days coming ahead.
Super. So correct. So, Juliet, thank you so much again. And I would like to just let you go into your day. And I'm going to go into my night and
Enjoy.
light some candles.
Yes, like those candles.
Yes, I
And you can,
will, certainly.
yes, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
I do too. Thank you. Bye bye.